Okay, we'll now open the July regular school board meeting for School District 518. 1.0, call to order. 1.1, roll call. Let the record reflect everybody is here tonight. 1.2, recognition of visitors and guests. Thanks to everyone that's here and the people that are watching. 1.3, pledge of allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, 1.4, correspondence and recognition. 1.4.1, public participation. At the beginning of each board meeting, we provide members of the public with the opportunity to address the school board. Community input is encouraged and welcomed. Input must be informal in nature, address the entire board rather than one particular member, and will be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes in length. The Board of Education cannot engage in discussion or debate, but will take the information for review and direct it to the appropriate district employee to respond. And I don't believe we have any participation, do we? No. Okay, moving on, recognition of students, staff, and community. Our July recognition, Big South Baseball All-Conference. Congratulations to Junior Austin Gruis on being named to Big South All-Conference Boys Baseball Team. Big South Baseball, honorable mention. Congratulations to Junior Dominic Pavelko on earning Big South honorable mention honors in baseball. Great work on an outstanding season. FCCLA National Convention. Congratulations to our FCCLA members, Elena Steve, Olivia Gendron, and Zoe DeBoom on their outstanding experience at the National Convention in Washington, D.C. They earned the opportunity to compete at the national level after placing high enough at the Minnesota FCCLA State Leadership Conference. Alana Steve earned a gold medal in the job interview event. Olivia Gendron and Zoe DeBoom earned bronze medals for their interior design project. Thank you for representing Worthington High School and FCCLA with excellence. Okay, moving on, 2.0. We need to approve the consent agenda and main agenda, but before we do, we need to change 4.3.14. We need to insert interim assistant principal as a word in there. So when we make the motion with adjustments. Do I have a motion for the consent and main agenda?
So moved with adjustments.
Motion by Lori. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Okay, approval of minutes, approval of the June school board meeting and the committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Matt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Okay, 4.0. Do I have a motion to approve the items under the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Ann. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lori. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on, main agenda, 5.1 will be the financial overview. Carmen?
In front of you guys, we'll have the revenue and expenditure guideline for the period ending June 30th, 2026. That is the end of our fiscal year. This is the unaudited numbers. So this is kind of where we're at currently. The next time you guys will see these final numbers, the audited numbers will be when we have our audit presentation in November. As you can see on our revenues, we are right on target for where we the budget was, where Ryan had projected the budget. So those are good. As we've explained in the past, and Ryan has explained even when we're doing budget, the state kind of holds back that 10% just as final numbers are still getting calculated in that Mars data report. Usually that comes in August. We have a better idea of what that final is going to be. That would be shown in our final audited numbers when that is presented to the board. Expenditures, the majority of our expenditures are in, all of our payrolls are in, and that is the majority of them. There are still a few just leftover things that are still maybe out there for billing for this past year that will also be put in for that final audit to have our final numbers. But overall, our budget is right on target for what we thought it would be, what was projected.
Okay, any questions for Carmen? Okay, 5.2, approve of leave of absence for an employee. Carmen.
Yep, so we have a teacher that has requested a leave of absence due to a medical. Our recommendation is to approve that leave for the upcoming school year. The principal has also is aware of that and has that position covered.
Do I have a motion to approve the leave of absence?
So move.
Motion by Matt, do I have a second?
Second.
Ann, second by Ann. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 5.3, approve student handbook, cell phone policy.
At this time, I'll ask Principal Winnicky and Principal Hastings to come forward. If you wouldn't mind, just give a brief kind of overview of how committee went with overall handbooks, and then I'll let you slide into the new piece.
Yes, in the instructional, earlier this month, we went, all the principals went over their handbooks, gave updates, and obviously for approval for tonight. Mr. Winnicky and I wanted to kind of give you an update on an improvement to the handbook, a change in our handbook. It has to do with cell phone policy. We've had cell phone policy for years. We're taking a different angle at it. We're trying to parallel what the state was looking at for possible recommendations. We're continuing with that. We've worked with our building leadership over the past year, and we've had some teachers actually use some of the tools that we've given them. One of the tools that you can see in front of us on the podium is kind of the pockets that we have in the classrooms in which students can hand in those devices as they enter the classroom. So again, why the change? Again, we were looking at having some changes done this year. Obviously, we want to reduce distractions. Devices have been proven to be distractive, and obviously the cell phone is one of those things that we're trying to reduce the amount of distractions during the instructional time. Increase engagement. Obviously, we want our students to be engaged, and with the reduction of access to the electronic device, we're hoping that can occur, obviously, which would improve our learning. And the other thing is we want to have a more consistent policy when it comes to cell phones, and this is one step in which we're hoping to have a little bit more consistency.
So this is kind of the overview of our policy. Students are allowed to have devices still before school, after school, during their lunch period, and then between all of their classes. They are not allowed during classes, so each individual, which we'll talk about in a second, each individual teacher will have a place designated in their classroom for the cell phones. One example is this nice pocket holder here. Teachers have rosters printed out with each student's name on them, and then they have a number, and that's their pocket. That's their number. That's where they put them. They're including, so the devices are including your cell phones, but they're not limited to cell phones. They're also your smartwatches, your Meta glasses, and then earbuds as well.
So some of the classroom expectations, teachers will have a designated location for the students to store the devices. At the high school, where obviously each classroom will be equipped with one of the hanging cell phone carriers for each of the classrooms. So we have that already purchased for each classroom. And then obviously the teachers will share this location. Each class So they'll get that routine. A majority of the teachers have kind of looked at this as one of the options that they will use. And I'm in a quick second here, I'm going to have Mr. Brandt kind of talk about how he's used it in his class this past year. And then obviously if a violation occurs, teachers and administrators will confiscate the device, complete a referral, and turn the device into the office. And we have a process in which one of our assistant principals will talk to the students, and then we have a progression of infractions, and that's laid out in the policy in the student handbook that you have as well.
And here it is laid out actually, the progressive disciplinary positions that we'll take. First offense, student may retrieve the device at the end of the day. So again, it goes to the office every time. This first offense, you can have it back at the end of the day. Obviously with communication about our expectations and procedures and the why, of course. If it continues to happen, the second offense, the parent or guardian is going to have to come to the office to pick it up rather than giving it to the student. And then third infraction is the parent retrieves it again, and then additional consequences may be imposed based on the continuation of the progression. And then fourth, and so on and so forth, a cell phone plan would be created with administration and the student and the family, the parents, where they could not use them. Parents and guardians device, the parents and guardians will work with us to come up with a plan that could include the student checking the phone into the office every day. And so it will progress each time that an offense is made.
Some of the key messages, obviously the cell phone is a privilege, it's not a right, and the district is not responsible for lost or damaged devices. Obviously that was one of the key things that staff were concerned about. And then obviously violations also include the acceptable use policy that we have for all of our devices that cover district-wide.
So implementation, so how will we do this? So we are staff communication during the back to school week. That's where we'll really go over this policy. Our staffs are already aware of this. We've communicated this out. As Mr. Hastings pointed out, this has already been developed over through our BLTs, our building leadership teams. But kind of also like what Mr. Hastings said, you'll hear from Mr. Brandt later. A lot of teachers, I know from the Learning Center side, they actually have already been implementing something very similar to this. So they're kind of already aware of it, and so are the kids. So we'll be doing that during back to school week. There will be communication at the beginning of each quarter to each class, as we kind of talked about earlier, including from administration as well. There will be family communication going out in the open houses, along with using our district communication tools to communicate all of these policy changes. And then we want to make sure that we're being consistent in enforcing these across the buildings to make sure that we are holding everybody accountable and following the policy.
If Mr. Brandt would come up, obviously one of the things that we're trying to teach our students, whether it's at the high school or the Learning Center, is just appropriate use and then getting them for the next step in their life. So again, this is a learning opportunity for our students as well.
Hi. So I teach English here at the high school. I think you're all familiar with that. Just some context. So first semester, I didn't really have like a cut and dry policy. It was very much like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. Put it away. I don't want to see it. As you might imagine with high schoolers, you give an inch, they take a mile. So that did not work. Kind of the end of first semester, I was kind of reaching wit's end with it. I'm like, okay, you guys are driving me crazy. I subbed for another teacher in the building. She was using this, had like a layout taped up on the wall. I saw the kids do it, no problem. I was like, I'm stealing that. So then as a department, we all ordered the pockets, and we kind of talked department-wise what are our expectations, just so that it's kind of the same across the board. I started it the first day of second semester, and I was very nervous about kids fighting back on it, complaining, whatever. And as soon as I introduced it, my co-teacher and I The kids just got up and put their phones away, and we were like, wow, that was, it was really that easy. So my expectation in my room is when the first bell rings, put your phone away. You don't need to go looking at it all the time. You have what you need on your iPad, or I give it to you printed out or whatever. It's kind of an incentive. I would always tell them, if you're done with everything, literally everything, you can get your phone back. So my students that were really excelling, they'd get their stuff done, they'd grab their phones, no problem. My students that needed support but were usually kind of hiding behind their cell phones, it was a little more obvious. We could identify, hey, you need help because you're just kind of staring at your iPad now. So it really wasn't a mega shift like we thought it might be. And I did see more engagement. Even the students that they're done with their stuff, they'd start working on other homework. They'd turn and talk to their friend at their table, whatever it is. Just generally kind of better behavior. Not that I had a ton of behavior issues to start with, but it was nice to see them like talking to each other instead of immediately just going to Snapchat or whatever as soon as they were done with something. So, and as Tony had said, like when we were talking as a BLT, gathering data, most teachers in the building were doing something similar already. So it wasn't a huge surprise at the end of the year when we said, hey, this is what we're going to try. Yeah.
And I think Zach's point there at the end is really, really important because, as the staff have already kind of had their policies in place in their classrooms, I know that we have also been laying that groundwork with our students of that this is coming and this is in place. And I really think that it will be a smooth transition. And we're looking forward to seeing how this impacts our student learning. We'll open it up to questions if you guys have any.
Mr. Chairman, a question on the infraction that you talked about. Does that, if it all happens in the first 2 weeks, those infractions carry through the entire year, or are they reset after quarter breaks, semester breaks?
Typically, we've done it as for a full year, so that's why we document it in campus so we can see. When I was the assistant principal, we would have a couple of offenders that would be maybe a little bit more often, but for the majority, it's usually a one-time, and the student kind of figures it out that this is something that they don't want to do or lose. So, and again, a lot of times when we have something new, we'll revisit it. So probably about mid-year, we'll get together with leadership team, and I'll coordinate with Mr. Winnicky and say, hey, how's this going? Is it working? Is it doing what we want it to do? And if we need to tweak or modify it. But typically, we do keep track, and obviously, campus is our system in which we can document the infractions. And if we see, and again, that helps us be consistent too, so we can follow the 1 through 4. And again, we're hoping to, if it becomes such a big issue, then to get parents on board to help us out. And again, like Mr. Winnicky said, communication will be coming out in the near future, just so parents have a heads up as well too.
Do we think that this goes far enough, or did we consider a bell-to-bell, put it away type of a policy? And why wouldn't we go ahead and go there? Just from if we talk about kids when they're done with their work, turning to one another and having a conversation and not being glued to their phones, why wouldn't we want that in between classes and at the lunch hour, that sort of thing?
Yeah, kind of like what Mr. Hastings said, is this is a start, right? Like we have to evaluate where we're at in the middle of the year, see where we're going. I think that that's something that we've definitely talked about. We've definitely looked at different educational articles, even throughout the state of Minnesota that have done it. I think this is a great starting spot, and if we need to adjust to that, we certainly can. But we got to start somewhere, and I think this is a good place to start, and we'll evaluate from there.
I feel like with this model, the onus is on the teachers to police it because it's in the classroom, which gives me a little bit of concern that they're the bad guys when they take a phone away or they send it to the office, and they've got a lot that they've got going on in a classroom. So I worry a little bit about that. So that kind of ties into my last question, so I'll skip the second one for now. The last question was, when will we get an update on how this is going? When can we expect some feedback on on how we're doing and what the changes look like for our students.
I'd say give it some time. Give us like again, we can check in like half the year, and again, we constantly get feedback from our teachers, and I think the support. Yes, it's a classroom management piece. Cell phones have always been a classroom management piece. Obviously, support of an assistant principal. We've added a second assistant principal, so hopefully the teachers will feel supported if a student is violating the policy. And again, having a more consistent policy is something that we're looking at. Teachers are always looking for consistency, whether it's in a policy or in the administration enforcing that policy. So hopefully we can come back and again revisit it, and we can update the board halfway through the year and just say, hey, this is what we've implemented, this is how it's going so far. And again, we can check at the end of this school year and say, did this go far enough? Do we feel like it's reduced the distractions, or do we have to take it up a notch, and do we have to do a bell to bell all day long instead of a bell to bell within the class? And again, I always talk about teaching responsibility to our students. And again, I've talked about cell phones a lot. Cell phones are a part of who we are now. I bet all of us have a cell phone on us right now. And again, we have to teach our students how to use them appropriately. You walk into Walmart and you see kids that work there and they're on their phone. That drives me crazy. And again, I think school's responsibility is to teach students when's the right time to have a phone and when's not the right time to have a phone out. And again, phones are a part of our society, and I think we have to teach our students when the right time to have them out and use them, and when to have them away.
And the initial communication about this will come directly from Mr. Hastings and I, so that we are implementing it, and we are supporting our teachers and our students. I mean, truly, we're supporting the students and their academic growth. And so that will come from us to start completely, so.
And then back to my second question. When I look at the infractions and what happens for the 4 levels, right, of infractions, they're not very scary to me. So,
They're not scaring you. Be a student and have your cell phone taken away.
And your parents have to come get it.
Yeah, that would be scary enough.
Not
Not necessarily scary, but again, having your
inconvenient.
Yes.
it's more of a convenience thing than a deterrence to me, is the way I look at those 4 levels. And then what comes after that 4th one? I know that it's like meet with the parents and have a cell phone policy. Is that enough to deter that type of behavior, or is there just another end around to bring a phone in?
We have never gone that far. Obviously, we've gone to the step 1 and step 2. Typically, step 1 is where it comes down the office. It will sit typically on an assistant principal's desk until the end of the day, and then the student has to come down, explain why their phone was taken away, and then Mr. Brands typically gives his little speech about the next time it's taken away, then a parent has to come in. Parents don't like to come in to school to have to retrieve a cell phone for their student, so that's a deterrent there. And again, I think having that meeting, step 4, which we've rarely ever done, will be, I think, a deterrent for our students as well.
And if it continues, we will address those as they come. I've had it in the past where we've called parents to pick up the phone and they've left it for the weekend, right? And very much like like we talked about, it's a deterrence. I don't want my phone taken because my mom's not coming to get it, so I'm gonna follow this and do what I'm supposed to. We've seen step 2 is usually where it really resolves the problem for the most part. Obviously, every case is different.
So in other words, this is just a work in progress. There probably will be some changes along the way.
Yeah, I think again, like any policy that's maybe new, you revisit it, see how it's going, the progression of it. And again, we'll talk to stakeholders, we'll talk to students, we'll talk to teachers and see how it's going. And if it's something that we maybe need to adjust even mid-year, we could adjust that. Or if we feel like it's meeting the needs of it, we can leave it the way it is and again revisit. We did that for late work policy as well too, because we implemented a new late work policy last school year and continue to revisit and revise it as we went. And I think that's been beneficial for us as well too. So I think anything new that we try, I think we see how it goes. just like a daily schedule that we have for next year. I think we see how it goes, and if it needs to be revised and updated, we're not afraid to do that as well.
Well, and we trust in the work that you're doing, so, I mean, we appreciate doing something rather than nothing.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just a couple of high points too is, to one of your Darla's questions, we started this work early in the winter as the legislature was moving through their process. And so what is being presented tonight, as Tony had kind of shared, is following what was presented, which was a K-8 ban in the building, essentially all day long, which is what we already do at our lower levels. And then a ban during, or excuse me, I think they labeled as a ban in the classrooms for the 9 through 12. And so we very much tried to model the law that ultimately I think we all thought was going to go through. It never made it to the finish line, but most likely will be brought up again. So should that happen, we have this in place now and don't have to do that work. I believe we can still look at our data and make adjustments. I think you can always do more, right? You can always do more than the law, but we'd never be able to do less should it go through. The other nice piece about the data living in campus is it will be easy for our administrators to pull the number of referrals, the time of day, what student has had it how many times. We'll be able to disseminate all that information to then use to determine what modifications need to be made. So I commend Tony and Spencer for the work. I appreciate them engaging in the discourse with their staffs to make this really a collaborative effort to roll out at the start of the school year.
Okay, any more questions, guys?
Mr. Chairman, totally support this, and I totally support a bell-to-bell ban.
Yeah,
so
you come back.
I don't
yeah.
know if, but I also wanted to just bring up the daily schedule as a question. Mr. Hastings, had been working a bit on crafting that the past few years. Is there much changes as we lay this out for this year?
There has been, and I can email that daily schedule to you. I've been working over the year. I've been working with Mr. Heitkamp on developing and obviously getting data from our staff, our stakeholders on the daily schedule. One of the main changes is our advisory will be kind of snuck in between first and second block, just so because we feel like it's still an important concept to our high school. And then one of the things that we're doing that's a little bit different as well is we're ending our day at 3:05 and we're calling it Trojan time for now, but from 3:05 until 3:30, we're having office hours for all of our teachers. So if a student is behind, needs to take a test or a quiz, is maybe on that academic failure list, they have an opportunity to go directly to that teacher and have that one-on-one time. We haven't had that in the past, and sometimes we've used advisory as kind of like a study hall, and then it really defeats the purpose of what advisory is for. And then the 3:30 is an important piece too, because that's typically when our buses will roll in our front loop, so we still have transportation available for those students that need it. So we have changed that schedule to have those office hours. Again, we're calling it Trojan time to support our students that need it. Like the special ed department has done it in the past, and I think it's Tuesdays or Wednesdays they've had where teachers or paras will be in a room and will be able to have access to additional support. So we're hoping that our students take advantage of this and our teachers can support our students again. So major changes, yes, we're starting at the same time because of busing is busing, but we're kind of putting that advisory time in between first and second block, and then having our day end at 3:05, but having that Trojan time to finish the rest of our day.
Extracurricular starts at 3:30 or 3?
Again, coordinating with Mr. Dale and making sure that our athletes will not be consequenced for showing up late. So we're still looking at probably a 3:30 time for extracurriculars to start. Obviously, coaches will be there available. If kids are dismissed at 3:05, they can start their extracurriculars. But typically, the start of our program should be at least at 3:30-ish time. Again, I talked to Mr. Dale, and he is going to talk to his coaches to let them know that there should not be a consequence if a student is late to practice due to them accessing Trojan time. Obviously, coaches want their students to be eligible passing classes, and again, extracurricular are extra. So we want our students to be successful in the classroom first, and then be able to be successful in whatever activity they're doing.
Mr. Hastings, do you see that being a problem with any of our staff at the high school that are coaches that would have to stay to 3:30 and then try to get to it?
Yep, and that's the one thing that we'll have to work out, because obviously we do have coaches, and again, I think we can possibly do some department stuff. I was thinking of like biology teachers, like I know the biology teachers share, they don't share a room, but they share a door. So if a coach needs to leave for practice, then instead of accessing one teacher, they can access the other teacher that teaches similar with probably all the departments have 2 or 3 teachers that are teaching similar subjects at that time. So it maybe that's how we alleviate that problem, because we have thought of that. Like coaches will have to leave to go to Trojan Field to get ready. And we know that, and we want our own teachers to coach as well too, because that's so beneficial. But again, we thought of that as maybe one of the things that we'll have to see, and again, see how it goes, and then if we have to tweak something, we have to tweak something.
Why are employees then not required to stay in their classroom for the full contract hour to 3:30? So if we're allowing coaches to leave, that seems like we're favoring coaches who are required to be in the classroom. So why is that allowed?
The coaches also have to supervise the students that are under their team.
Yeah, but we're paying them to be in their room till 3:30.
That might be a bigger question for the superintendent to answer than for us to answer. I know it is a tricky thing, and we've had other things besides coaching where they're maybe overlapping in their contractual time. I think we're always trying to do what's best for students. And again, I think this will benefit students. And yes, there are times in which our coaches will leave to go work with other students. So they're not just leaving because they're done with their day. They're leaving to go and work with another group of students.
Yeah, I understand that, but I guess my point is that the coaching is a separate contract, and I just don't understand why we're allowing that to happen.
I guess the part of it that you have to understand is that if we don't have coaches there, who's going to supervise them? Right? They're supporting student programming, that is an extension of the school day. And we're encouraging our staff to be a part of that, and that supervision is part of supporting the extension of the school day.
And that's especially important for those students that cannot drive, or middle school students that cannot leave the facility. We have to make sure that when the school day ends, they're being supervised.
Well, it seems then that we should just have the students also stay for Trojan time rather than dismissing them to go to practice before the day is over.
In the current process, just understand that the school day was ending at 3:10, and students are left to go, right? And teacher contract time is until 3:30, and coaches have been going forever to go support.
And it has been a problem, as far as I know, since I've been here.
Some of this comes into play even, and Spencer, you maybe can talk to this, but even the after-school program, some of the teachers that work in, one building that might finish up a little later, but they still want to teach after-school programming in a different facility. And normally they'll try to work within their team to make it work. So even that could be kind of argued that it's a separate contract, but trying to find the right individuals to even work those programs, sometimes there's a little bit of an overlap. I do know within, at least when I was at the high school, a lot of the coaching programs, the hope is there may be an assistant that has an opportunity to leave prior to the head, some of those types of things, but it does happen. But I do think it somewhat affects even the after-school programming as well.
That's a great point, Mr. Noble. We start after-school programming at our primary, secondary buildings right away when the bell rings to end the day. So teachers then that have chosen to teach after-school program, they move right into it because, again, the student supervision piece. So that's a very good point. Mm-hmm.
My only other comment is I agree with Ms. Agard's concerns about the cell phone policy. And I'm wondering what kind of, I also agree with Mr. Woodboom about banning it bell to bell all day long. I could understand maybe a lunch exception to that. But you are putting the onus on the teachers to enforce the policy in between classrooms. And so I'm wondering what kind of strategies or examples you're providing them to be able to manage that. Because my experience at the college is that gets pretty combative, especially with headphones and Apple Watches, et cetera. So is there a plan, a best practice, strategies, examples, training?
Well, I can't speak for Mr. Hastings because I'm not here, but for the Learning Center specifically, each individual has my number, my email, obviously. Most times I'm sitting in the hallway, officing out there, so that if something like that arises, they can come out and get us, and we can step in and take over, so it's not as combative, and it doesn't take away from that educational time and that instructional time. We don't want this to be a fight. We don't want the teachers to be the bad guy, and so that's where we step in and take over that situation.
If I may, I think the other strategy that they're implementing is that consistent piece across every classroom. So the opportunity to have a caddy in every room. So I'm not being really hard and strict in my room, and then the teacher next door isn't doing the same. And so those opportunities of consistency really is truly supportive of that staff member, because then the student knows from room to room, my expectation's the same, and I'm not going to be treated different from space to space.
I have a question about the contract time. And maybe this is a silly question, but what would be the disadvantage of starting extracurriculars at 3:45 if the school day technically goes until 3:30?
I think starting later just pushes everything back. Our students, and again, scheduling facilities and because there's multiple kids that have, again, getting home later after practice will just keep pushing that time back. So I think that's one of the difficult things is when we're pushing time back.
And facilities is a great comment because, as a former coach, we had to flip-flop weeks, right? So we would be early in the gym and the boys would be late, and then vice versa the next week. So if you do push it back to 3:45, you have a 2-hour, hour-and-a-half practice, that pushes all of that back as well. That's just from this facility standpoint. Obviously, that doesn't apply to every extracurricular, but for some, definitely.
It just seems that it'd be reasonable that there would be a little bit of like passing time in between the official end of the school day and then when everyone has to get to their next activity.
Trouble is, what if that kid has to go to work at 6 o'clock? I mean, when I played sports, kids had to work, so they had a schedule to follow. I mean, you're up against a lot of stuff that we're talking about, and I get your point, but I don't know if you're going to push it back to 3:45. We have a numbers problem already. I think you're just going to enhance it even more because kids have a schedule too, and we all got valid points, but I think we need to leave it to the administrators that they're doing their job, they're doing their best job, and they're not leading us down the wrong path. And this is probably another thing. If this needs to be adjusted, guys, they'll come to us and we'll adjust it, right? I mean,
Yeah, and again, I think this is something that's been, again, going on for years and years and years, and I don't think it's ever been addressed. And again, this is something that we could look at, and again, I think it's a bigger question that maybe we have conversations during a working session where we can have a greater input to. Obviously, Mr. Dale can be a part of that conversation as well, having coaches be a part of that. And again, it's not just coaches, it's extracurricular activities, it's the after school, and again, it's getting teachers that teach here to get to the Learning Center so they can teach that night school course that they're teaching as well too. So we don't want to deter our teachers that are already doing a lot of work from this will make my day even longer from doing these things, because we do appreciate when our own staff take on the leadership roles in either coaching or a musical or whatever we're doing, because it's important for our own staff to do these things. And a lot of times we do have outside people that come in, and it's just a different connection as well too. So are we perfect? By no means we're not. Can we improve? Definitely, and I think we're always looking for ways to improve what we do, whether it's the high school, the learning center, or any principal. We're constantly looking at how we can improve our systems that we do. And if there's something that we can look at and improve, I think we're willing to do that as well.
How many teachers are actually true coaches? Because, I mean, you said this is a problem, Eric, so is there really that many teachers that are coaches and it's every season that it's a problem?
It's a loaded question. I mean, because you have to factor in more than just extracurriculars. You have to factor in the night school, the edge after school. You got to factor in those too, because they're essentially doing very similar things. It's a good number. I don't have a specific, but.
And it isn't just sports. I mean, you got a lot of clubs too, so you got to think bigger than sports. You got to think, robotics and science club, and there's lots of other groups that are meeting either before or after school during those contract hours where they're doing something additional.
And again, our teachers go above and beyond so many times, and just the contracts are, I'm sure they like being paid, but it's not like they're not becoming millionaires if you're coaching boys basketball. You do it because you love it. You do it because you love students. You put in a lot of time, and I appreciate whatever role you do for the district. We appreciate what you're doing. So.
Okay, do we have any further questions, guys?
Move to approve student handbooks as
Okay,
presented.
motion by Matt. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ann. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the cell phone policy, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 5.4, presentation on summer school and credit recovery. Spencer.
Yeah, we had summer school throughout the month of June. We had it 3 weeks, June 8th through the 26th. First of all, I'm going to start this by saying I very much appreciate the staff that we have that are willing to do summer school in all of our sites. We have sites all over the district that have students. Teachers are working throughout the summer, helping our students grow throughout different areas. And we just have some of the best teachers in the world, best staff overall, not just teachers, it's all of our staff. It's custodial, clerical, paraprofessionals, teachers, kitchen staff. They're amazing. We're so thankful that they're willing to do these things. We had another great year. We had another great summer. I'm going to give you a couple highlights of that. Starting out with the Learning Center and our students in grades 9 through 12, we had approximately 210 students enrolled in summer school credit recovery between our 9th grade transition program and our 10 through 12 credit recovery, which from that we earned a total, or our students earned a total of 157 credits, which is a lot of credits because if you recall, each class is worth half of a credit. Keep in mind, please, that not every student needed 3 blocks. At the Learning Center, we have 3 blocks. Not every student needed 3 blocks or had to come for 3 blocks. Not every student needed the full credit. Some may only need quarter credit to finish up a class from a previous year or a previous night school class or finish up their graduation requirements. And this is a stat that we're very proud of. 37 of our students graduated at the end of summer school. That was really fun. To have them walk out and you could just see them. They were just glowing. Their smiles, like they were so excited. We order the diplomas, so then they have to come in after summer school to pick them up and sign for them. And just seeing the delight on their face and just, they overcame something, right? Like you can see that they felt accomplished and they accomplished something. And it was just great having conversations individually with them as they pick up their diplomas of what's next and, keep us in mind. If you need anything, reach out. It's great to see all of them finish up, and that's another great reminder to you as a board is a few years ago, you had approved the policy for them to be within a credit and a half and still participate in graduation commencements. We had 37 of those students finish in summer school. It's a great number. And then in our other buildings, we had our EDGE 1 through 8. Students worked on math, reading, and science curriculums to help them continue to grow and kind of try to prevent that summer slide. We had approximately 300 students that were enrolled in that. And then we had great partnerships with entities outside of the school district. We worked with the Minnesota DNR, who taught our kids in 5th through 7th grade how to fish. That was really cool. You may have seen the article in the Globe. We had the Ochita Dairy host kids in grades 1 through 4 and kind of show them that farm to table and the process and how that works. And then we had our 8th graders that participated in like Minnesota West and the Nobles County Historical Society, and 9th grade transitions also participated in some college visits and visits to different businesses, and just to kind of show them what they have available to them right here in Nobles County. Each student, now it doesn't matter if you're in grades 1 through 8 or if you're in 9 through 12, each student per state statute completes what's called a continual learning plan, or CLP. And at the end of summer school, and there's goals in there, and at the end of summer school, all the teachers go to that CLP for each student and determine if they had made progress towards that goal. And, you know, at the Learning Center and at Edge, high majority of them all made progress in certain areas, which is something to celebrate as well. And then here's some pictures of summer school. We love summer school. It's just a great time. The kids want to be there. They work hard. We got great staff, like I told you. That I cannot say that enough. We're already planning for next year. So it's a great 3 weeks, and it goes quick. It goes very quick. And that's all I have. Any questions?
If not, thanks, Spencer. Okay, moving on, 5.5, review milk and bread bids. Carmen?
So I had mentioned at operations with the proposals that we have out now for our contracted food service, the milk and bread bids had went out ahead of that. We had our pre-proposal meeting last week. After that conversation, we will not be proceeding with the milk and bread bids because the company themselves already have connections with companies. They might take and review what we got, but basically that's part of that savings that's going to come from them is they have a wider range of ability to get better prices. So we had 5 different companies attend that pre-proposal meeting. We did building tours with them, and the bids or the proposals are due tomorrow by 1. And then I will go through doing the evaluation based on MDE, and then they get submitted to MDE for a final review and process.
Any other questions for Carmen?
No, I just want to say thanks to Carmen for bringing that up, because it was on the instructional committee for the food service vendors, and so if there's any other questions about that, I was going to bring it up at the end,
Okay.
but I think you explained it well enough for me that we won't really know till tomorrow.
Do we think the 5 that did the walkthrough will all submit a proposal?
I believe so, based on the conversations. They all were very excited. Kudos to our food service staff. They said our kitchens are amazing. They walked through all of them and looked at a lot of stuff, and I just think they were really impressed with our facilities that we have. I do believe they all are planning on submitting bids. I have received, or proposals, I need to correct that. I have 2 that I received so far, and the rest are planning on sending tomorrow.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on. 5.6, approve salary and benefits increase for the Worthington Administrators Association. Joel?
Sure, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we have a tentative agreement with our administrator group on a new 2-year contract. I'd encourage any of the board members that were a part of those, and Josh and Carmen, please step in as well. But I do have some high points I'd like to just share in regards to language, insurance, and then obviously salary. So some language changes and adjustments that were made. We removed language in regard to extra summer school stipends and pay. And that was originally put in place in language prior to the administrator structure that we have there. So when there was only one administrator and no dean at the learning center, that person was doing all of that work and all of the summer school on their own. And there was language in the contract that allowed for extra pay. Because we're not utilizing that structure anymore, both parties agreed to remove that with the current structure that's there. We updated all leave language to follow new state statutes. We updated how unused days are used. Prior practice was that administrators had until the start of school in that short month between the end of July, or excuse me, the end of June and the end of August to use any unused days. And as many of you know, that's a very busy time for our administrators. And so if they don't use them, they were losing them. And so we came to an agreement that allowed for up to 5 of those days to be used throughout the entirety of the school year. Those days cannot carry over, they can't be paid out, and if they don't use them in that time period, they do drop off. And so that was a change there to, again, allow to our administrators to support their buildings leading into a school year rather than feeling like they had to cram them in during that busy time. We also spend lots of time talking about the extra duties that happen outside of the regular school day, whether they're supervising events, title events, family engagement events, just being in facilities. And we came to an agreement to allow what we're calling compensatory days within the contract. That was also in response to an ask to reduce duty days, which we were not in agreement on. And so the compromise was to give compensatory days to offset many of the extra things that are happening outside the school day. Those days cannot roll over, they cannot be paid out. Again, they are use them or lose them, but they were in recognition of the things that are happening outside of that regular 7:30 to 3:30, 4 o'clock school day. We did add language that allowed district administration to direct what we're calling some mandatory days. The example I was going to give for that is that this year we're doing something new with all of our district level administrators as well as our building administrators with a 3-day back to school week of our own. Much like we do a workshop week with our teachers, we're going to do that ourselves the first week of August. And we wanted just to be able to ensure that if we were going to go through all of that work to give really vital information to kick off a school year, that we could have all the people at the table that we needed. And so those mandatory days would be in consultation with the leadership group that is negotiating the contract. They would never happen between June 15th and July 31st. But outside of that, we had the ability in collaboration with the administrator group to direct some of those mandatory days. In regard to health insurance, our administrator group was in agreement to move to the high deductible HSA. Carmen, you can provide more details if needed, but ultimately that provides greater stability for our overall district insurance because it's just so much more controllable by the provider in Sanford. So Carmen, anything else you'd like to share about that?
Yeah, no, and as we talked about this, even with the EMW group, and as we've done open enrollment this last year, really trying to show our employees the value of that true HSA plan that we offer. That also is going to, as Mr. Heitkamp mentioned, control like our increases, right? That's where our current insurance provider has more control at keeping those costs down, and that's going to help us in the future as we see that rising in cost in our premiums coming up. So the more groups that we negotiate with, that is definitely something that even in our EMW, we try to incentivize that HSA plans over our traditional plans, just because that is where that cost savings is going to be. And it actually provides a much more affordable premium to our groups, and especially in that family premium plan.
Thank you. In regard to salary, we added $1,750 to the base in year 1 and added $1,850 to the base in year 2. I've had a couple of individual conversations with board members, so out of respect of everyone, I'll just share some of the information that was also shared in regard to how the overall calculation happens and what process is used. For all of our bargaining groups, we're using MSBA model language and model practice of you pick a date and time, And that is the employee group that you use to cost any changes to the district. Knowing that we have movement every day in and out of groups, it would be impossible with some of our larger groups to have real time, this person left, this person came on, this is where they're at on the pay scale. And so February 1st is the date that MSBA recommends using for negotiations, which has been the practice here in Worthington for many, many years. And so that was the date that was used with the MW that we had settled in the spring. It's the date that we use with our administrator group and also the 3 groups that we're negotiating with right now. And so we can acknowledge that one of those members that was a part of that pool has resigned and left to another district. The person taking that person's place is obviously coming in on a lower level as a new administrator. One of the additional people to that group has been an employee in the district for multiple years, and so now that salary will be costed to this group in the future, but was already a cost to the district. And then the one additional is not costed into the total package, but was planned into the budget that was approved by the board last month. So all costs has been accounted for and has been thought of so that there isn't a hidden or extra cost that hasn't been thought of. So the overall total 2-year package of the agreement that we have a tentative agreement on is 5.98%. Be happy to take any questions for myself or any member of the team that helped negotiate the contract.
Who was on? Aaron was on, Lori was on, Eric?
And Ann.
And Ann. You guys have anything you want to add?
I just say thank you to the principals group, Tony and his group, that was good collaboration, give and take, and happy to have it finished and done, so.
Ditto.
I do have a quick question. We've talked about this in the past, and I sent you a note this afternoon. Sorry, it was late. But I understand the percentage here and the February 1st date. But from a financial perspective, I still am not at a comfort level of understanding where we were at for a total cost for the district for this particular group in the last fiscal year, and what that total cost will be for the district in the upcoming fiscal year. So the 5.9% is a point in time for a group at a certain time last year. That doesn't tell me what the financial impact is overall for the district. And given where we're at with our numbers and the changes that are coming from a district perspective, I would have liked to have been more comfortable with the financial implications.
The actual dollar amount increase to the total overall budget is $87,000. $87,773.
Okay, and that includes?
Over the course of 2 years.
That includes the new hire, the changes,
That
everything,
no,
and the
no, that includes-
5.98%.
That includes the date and time group that was bargained.
So what I'm saying is I still don't have the bottom line then to the financial
So the
impact.
financial impact would be part of the budget.
Yeah.
So when Ryan did the budget, that's the overall
Yeah, but
administrative financial impact.
I don't see the breakdown of that particular bargaining unit unless I look at the audit, which is not even this fiscal year, but the year before. So I don't have a sense. What I'm saying is I don't feel like I'm informed enough to vote yes on this because I don't have a good understanding of the overall impact on the district with all of the changes we've made and the 5.98%. So, I mean, I understand that I appreciate all they do, but I just am not comfortable because I don't have the information. So I just.
And I think this is the same process that we have done with all of our groups. So I think I don't think it's fair to this group to say no, but we disapproved the EMW group and we did the exact same thing. So I think as a board, then we need to decide how else we want to show that. And it's almost impossible to do person for person because we add teaching staff after the fact and it's not part of that negotiations. Paras are the same. Like it's hard. So I think that's where MSBA, that's their guidance. This is how you negotiate. And I know what you're saying too, and maybe it's not tied to negotiations, it's a different conversation,
Yep.
is what I'm thinking.
Understood.
That maybe we need to
Understood,
go
but
to.
I just
Okay.
want to put out there, I'm probably a no.
Do you feel not informed, or you not trust what these guys all did?
Oh, no, I completely trust what they did and how they negotiated. I just don't have a good understanding from a financial perspective what this means. When we're looking at numbers, a deficit next year, when we talk about potential cuts, when we're looking under the couch cushions for quarters, right? I trust everyone. I trust the negotiations. I appreciate this group. I appreciate everyone and what they do for this district. It's just, I don't feel like I have enough information to have an informed vote for me. And that's just where I'm at. And some of that's me, so, which I get to. It's not a reflection on any work that anyone does and the great job that they do. It's just,
Yeah, like Carmen said, it has been past practice to do it this way for many, many years. And I guess what you have to think about then is to trust in the revised budget, and we'll look at the budget again, and we'll keep making revisions as the year goes. Lots of times we make 2 or 3 revisions to it, and that's why our financial team looks at it as closely as they do, to have an exact pinpoint number of what that is. I mean, I suppose sure you could dig it out as another point in time somewhere, but, again, that's be extra time to go get it and figure it out. But after the audit, I suppose you could have a time in place where this is exact amount of money with all the new hires. But again, take a little bit to figure out when it,
Well, it's a moving target. I mean, EMW has had people leave that we budgeted for and new people come in. There's no way to
And
have an
opens.
exact dollar figure until the end. And because people could still leave. The school year hasn't started yet. So more people could turn in a resignation, and then they could be high on the pay scale. And if we're lucky enough to get somebody in, they might be very low on the pay scale. And so it's a moving target. There's no way to know the information.
I think we just need to, be careful that we're not letting any group like balloon in costs. And, this is a relatively small group, but if we look at the, from year to year, how many actual dollars we spend on administrators in, the 25 to 26 school year, and then the 26 to 27 school year, and just see how much are we paying for administrators to do these tasks. I was part of the negotiation, so I do feel comfortable with where we got to with this. And it's helpful to be in the room, I'll certainly say that. But I think, it's hard to really wrap your mind around it when it's just percentages. And so seeing, actual dollars for how much we spent on administrators in this past year, and then, a projection, for how much we expect to pay administrators next year might just help us gain a better understanding to make sure that, okay, we are spending our dollars efficiently, we're not, this isn't bloat, and we need X, Y, and Z, and, things like that.
and typically in the audit, when you get it, there is that pie chart has all the expenses, and usually administrative expenses are around that 3%. We try to keep it there. It's been there for a long time, give or take. So it's not a big percentage of our entire budget, but the 3%, and then I'm not sure what all goes into that, but it would be all our administrative team goes into that 3% of the entire budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve salary and benefit increases for the Worthington Administrators Association for the 26 through 28 total 2-year package of 5.98%.
Okay, motion by Matt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
aye.
Motion passes. 5.7, approve to declare vehicles as surplus property.
This one was brought to the operations committee. We have been looking and working with our special ed department with the transition with 4O taking over the special ed transportation responsibility next year. We have found 8 vehicles that we are no longer in need of. And we've actually had 4.0 transportation reach out and say they'd be interested to follow statute. We have reached out to a local dealership as well and asked them to quote. We have had one of those groups come and take a look at all 8 vehicles. So in order to try to sell those vehicles, we need to declare them surplus.
Got all 8 of them out there.
They look nice out there.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ann, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Aaron, is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to declare vehicle surplus property, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 5.8, discussion on all sports fee increase for the 27-28 year. Josh.
Yeah, this was also brought to the operational committee, and so the full board's aware. Initially, 5.8 and 5.9 were kind of combined during the operational committee discussion. We are looking to consider increasing all of our athletic activity fees. Currently, it's $40 per sport, and we've done a fair amount of research, and comparably, we are considerably lower. Even though the request would be to move it up to $50 per sport, even moving it would still make us lower than all of the areas that we've looked at. Now, I will say there are some systems that are still using a sliding scale where people who qualify for free and reduced lunch have a lowered fee, but then those that don't have a much higher fee. Years back, we moved to just trying to kind of equalize that rate for everybody. There was some discussion about what the family cap would be. We've talked a little bit about if it was 50 per sport, we considered 250. Joel and I were able to speak with Mr. Dale today. I think, and even it came up at operational, the hockey fee 5.9 will come into play. We may need to consider the potential of just a certain number of activities that if you have multiple kids playing within our system, if you've paid for 5, that's just your cap. And that would include middle school, that would include any sport at the high school. We'll get into the hockey discussion as well. These fees would not come into play this school year because we've already had online registration happening. So some parents have already paid the 40. We want to make it clean, but we wanted to bring this to the board to have some discussion tonight. There was not a recommendation regarding the fee from the operational committee, but it was one reason they wanted this and the hockey fee separated.
And I think just for clarification, we're looking for approval. We're looking to have the conversation for for next school year,
Yes.
not changing anything for the current
These
year.
fees would come into play for next school year's activities.
But that's still pretty cheap compared to other school districts, right?
Say that again.
This movement would be pretty cheap compared to what other school districts are charging.
And you are seeking a motion for that? I mean, a motion to approve 27-28 fees.
Yeah, that would allow us to have the full year to communicate with our families, to prepare them.
And it's $50 per sport is the discussion?
Correct. At the high school level.
Right.
Leaving our middle school fees the way they are.
And currently our arts and other activities, not sports related, are 30. We have not discussed that. We feel like we should just leave those alone, leave those at the same dollar amount. Middle school is slightly less than that. The middle school fees do come into play though when it comes to currently even with the family cap. So if you have a student playing in middle school and high school, all of those dollars currently, if they add up to $200 and you hit the family cap, then there's no longer a fee for activities.
So what do some of these other schools charge? In comparison to, so what do some of these other schools charge?
170 was
So it's
one.
50 enough.
Happen to have that spreadsheet.
Yeah, it was.
It was kind of all over the board.
And some of them did different sports for different prices as well, or different fees. And Aaron had brought up at the operations committee meeting, that'd be great to see kind of a cost analysis on each sport as well.
And do we have a plan in place? Oh, sorry, while you were pulling that up,
There
a
we
plan
go.
in place for a student or a family that doesn't have the funds to be able
Yeah,
to
so-
still participate?
During registration process and then with our counselors, we have what's called the McKinney-Vento process. And if any students are declared homeless, and we have a fair number of students, and it's not the typical what you would assume is homeless. Some families that are doubled up, any of those students that are on that list is shared with our athletic department, our admin, coaches. Any of those students are free. And then Mr. Dale, anytime he's speaking with coaches and students and parents, is also sharing. We never want the fee to be the barrier. So we do set the price, but we very much try to share that we don't want our costs, even at $40 currently, to ever be the reason that a student's not participating.
Thank you.
The spreadsheet that's projected is all schools in the Big South Conference. And so if you want to use football as the example, because it's the first one on the list, we're proposing a fee of $50. The next closest is Laverne at $70.
But a suggestion is to not adjust the cap?
The suggestion for the cap is instead of a dollar amount, 5 sports.
Okay.
And any combination of middle school, high school.
And other extracurriculars don't impact that? So if they'll still do a $30 fee for
They
non-athletics?
will come into play. In the conversation we had with Mr. Dale today, those would also count toward the 5.
So 5 activities.
5 activities. Yeah.
So that's organizations.
Yeah, we have a little bit of work to do in the new registration system that the conference just implemented. It's set up right now to be able to do sports. Mr. Dale's working on making sure the activities are a part of that. For a year, we may have to do a little bit more cross-referencing between campus and Bound is the name of the new organization that we're using for our fees. But the intent is that whether you are an athlete or you like the academic activities or you like both, they all count toward the 5.
Thoughts from anybody else?
And we're $40 now per activity?
Per
Or
sport. Per
And
sport.
30 for activities?
The activities are a little less, yep.
Right.
Mr. Dale did share that some of the activities are a little bit more, but there's other things attached to it. So for example, I believe he said, like the musical is a little bit more, but they design T-shirts and then everybody in the musical gets a T-shirt when they're done. And so there's a little added cost for that piece.
Still pretty cheap compared to what we're seeing there.
We're probably still not covering our transportation costs delta, given that. Yeah, and our middle school is especially low as well. But I'd rather, if we can keep it low, I'd rather keep it low.
Absolutely.
For participation. Yeah.
Well, then just if you want to make a motion for the $50 per sport, $250 cap for 5, right?
No dollar amount?
No dollar amount.
5 activity cap.
5 activity
5
cap.
activities, okay.
The highest would be $250 if you have 5.
Highest would be-
No, because hockey will come into play in the next conversation.
Well, and
Middle
if
school's
they're only
cheaper.
paying 30 for a club or something, that it's not gonna necessarily be 250, it's gonna
Or-
be.
So basically a motion for $50, a cap of 5 for this step, right?
Correct.
So
Do we
moved.
have a motion?
I'll
Darla made the motion,
Okay, I'll second Darla's
Aaron will
motion,
second the motion.
verbalized by Adam.
It's verbalized by
I
Adam.
just heard her. And I'm like, okay, we got a motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
But this does not include hockey, so it shouldn't say all sports.
No, it will include hockey.
Okay.
Hockey's considered a activity.
It'll count as an activity. That's one reason that we wanted to try to change it and
I
go
was
away
just-
from a dollar amount
Yes.
and choose the number of activities that a student may participate in, and then eventually they hit that family cap.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now 5.9, discussion on hockey fee increase.
Joel, you can step anytime as a hockey expert. We've been working to try to establish an appropriate cost for hockey. Now that the 9-12 or the varsity system, we will take over full responsibility of that. For many years, it's been a partnership. We feel that it's our role, just like any other activity, that it's our responsibility to make it just a varsity sport. So the Hockey Association can really focus on the youth. So families that participate in varsity hockey will still have to pay a fee, but there will not be a fee to us and a fee to the association. They will only pay us for the varsity play. We've looked at a number of schools regarding hockey fees. Our recommendation is to start at $250. Now, I will say, comparatively speaking, when you think of other activities, even myself who did not play hockey, it initially sounds expensive. However, in conversation with a lot of individuals, any individual parent who's currently paying for hockey up to that point is significantly more expensive. In fact, right now it costs more than that to even play our varsity because they pay a small fee to us and then a fee to the association. So our recommendation was to go to $250 for the varsity fee through the high school. That is one reason that the dollar amount cap came into question. We had some conversation at the committee. If a student played, they had one child play hockey, do they automatically meet the cap? What if they had 3 girls playing hockey? What do we do then? So we talked about the idea of 5 activities and having hockey at $250.
So like these schools that co-op with us, what do we get for a student from a different district?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we take the overall cost of, for example, boys hockey. I believe we had 1 co-opted player from a neighboring district. Take the overall cost, you divide it by the number of players, and then that co-oping district is financially liable for the one student's allotment of that total cost. Yep.
Just because I don't have any context, what was the fee to the association and us total?
I believe it was 400.
Okay.
And then the 40 for us.
And then the 40 for us.
And I think at that time they were also still paying our $40
Yes.
fee and then the association.
And because I did this with my son this year, and because you're technically enrolling with a youth organization, we also had to pay, I believe, another $75 to Minnesota Hockey to be a part of the governing body for the youth organization. So there were really almost 3 fees. And
And then fundraise and volunteer hours.
and we were we were doing our concession stand like I was back in youth hockey and selling calendars, which I have shared with in conversations with some youth hockey that we can still have partnership with some of that, right? As long as some of those fundraising dollars can come back to our programs, we can partner in some of that and continue to support, because ultimately working together is what it's going to take to grow the sport, just like anything else. And so we want to continue to have that good partnership.
This is also 27-28
This-
school year?
This would be for this year.
This
This
school.
fee would be for this year because it's
The hockey
new.
fee, when they made the online registration live for parents, they left the hockey one off because we knew we needed to bring that to a conversation. So we would look to try to get an approval for a rate, and that would come into play for this school year. The other ones will kick in next school year.
Mr. Chairman, any input from the Hockey Association on this discussion?
I've had multiple conversations with the Hockey Association. They are very much in favor of the framework of us managing high school hockey, much like we probably should, and letting them truly focus on building the program from the ground up with younger skaters and making sure that they provide us so many kids. They're coming out of all of our years, and we have just tons of players to fill out our rosters.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve for the 26-27 school year varsity hockey grades 9 through 12 fee of $250 per student.
Motion by Matt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Lori. Is there any further discussion?
I do have a question
Okay.
about, sometimes junior high kids are moved up to that varsity level. So does that apply for them? That 250 would
It-
apply
it
if they're
does.
playing on the varsity
It does.
squad?
Yep.
Okay,
Varsity or JV.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, moving on, reports. Superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take the opportunity tonight to share with our board as well as with the community about something our team is really proud of. As we prepare to begin another school year, we're pleased to share that the Worthington District will be hosting our inaugural, what we're calling Back to School Bash, on Monday, August 24th from 5 to 7 p.m. on Trojan Field. The event is designed to welcome students, families, staff, and community members back for a new school year while celebrating the strong partnerships that make our district successful. We're eager to create opportunity for our school community to come together, reconnect, and build excitement before the first day of school. Want to just publicly say thank you to the generosity of the Cattlemen's Association for the donation of hamburgers and hot dogs that'll be available to all attendees while supplies last that evening. Families can also enjoy inflatable attractions, games, and other activities for all of their children. In addition to the support from the Cattlemen, several local businesses and community organizations have also generously donated supplies, resources, and other items to make the event a success, and we're incredibly grateful for their partnerships and investment in our students and families. As the event approaches, we'll continue to recognize them and thank each of them for these community partners and their contributions. Events like this reflect our belief that student success is strengthened when schools, families, and the community come together. We're grateful for the support of our community partners and who are helping make this event possible, and look forward to what we hope will become a new annual tradition.
What time will that start?
5 to 7. Do just want to share, I believe we have 2,000 hamburgers and hot dogs. So we have lots of food, but when they're gone, it is gone. We're going to have to start cooking maybe at 8 a.m. to make sure they get all done in time. Josh and I can take on that maybe, but no. The one thing we do have to share is that if the weather becomes a problem, we will cancel. There won't be a backup plan. So with what we've got planned, it's definitely an outside event with truly one day to have it on. So we're hopeful and crossing our fingers that we get good weather for that event.
95 and humid.
On Trojan Field.
Okay, instructional committee,
Everything's been covered?
operations.
I think everything's covered.
Okay, does anybody else have any other reports? Okay, 7.0 other business, and I talked to Joel a little bit about this. Some of you may not know, but going into our meeting next week, I just want you guys to know I am the guest city council for the next 3 months. And there's been some people thinking that it's fishy that I'm doing that at that time. There's no intention, but so if anybody says anything, I'm doing it because they asked, and I'm doing it till the middle of September. So, yeah, I'm representing both sides, but the city council on a very small scale. So I wanted you guys to know that. 8.0, future business, it will be the joint city and school board work session, July 28th at noon. High School Media Center. Following that, we'll have a special board meeting at 1:35, also in the Media Center. Seeing nothing else, we are adjourned.